Picture this, it's family game night tonight, but you just can't stomach the thought of one more sheep or one more train, so you go to the game shelf and things are looking rough. I mean, there's a reason why that copy of Monopoly is so dusty. We all know what happened last time. Well, if you played the classics to death and you desperately need something new to freshen up family game night, like maybe a list of the top 10 family games you probably haven't played yet, then might I suggest? Hi, I'm Alex from Might I Suggest a Game, a channel devoted to helping you find your perfect board game. Today, like I mentioned before, we'll be talking about my top 10 family games that you probably haven't heard of before, and I'm basing this list off of the relative availability of these games. I tried to pick 10 games that were a little off the beaten path, ones that you can't just pick up at Target, but that still deserve some love and certainly a spot at your next family game night. And if you have in fact heard of them before, then good on ya. You've got good taste, but you know the rules around here. If you take a suggestion, you gotta give one too.
You gotta give.
So make sure to drop a note in the comments with your favorite family games, and while you're down there, don't forget to hit subscribe and that little bell button so you can get notified when I post new content. Anyways, let's get into it. Will one of these family games be the perfect game for you? Let's find out, shall we? Alright, the first one on my list is one of my all-time favorites over the last couple years. It's Challengers. Challengers is a King of the Hill Battle Royale deck-building game for 1 to 8 players from One More Time games. In the game, you'll be drafting battlers with different powers and building a deck with them to face off against your opponents in a round-robin, winner-takes-all tournament. The gameplay itself is super simple since each round is essentially automated. Once you've honed your deck for the round, you'll just flip over your cards one at a time until you beat your opponent's level, and you'll go back and forth doing this until someone runs out of cards or overruns their bench. But really, the interesting part of this game comes from the deck building that you'll do in between rounds. I really love Challenger's approach to deck building because I think they've made it really accessible for all different types of players. If you're a newbie who doesn't play a lot of games, Challengers makes it easy enough for you to just draft cards of the same color each round to ensure that your deck has some built-in synergy, which means that even if it's your first time, you can still hold your own and make some pretty awesome combos. And if you're a seasoned TCG player, or if you're just an avid gamer, you'll enjoy finding the different combinations of colors that work well together as you try to put together a rogue deck that can take you all the way to the end. Either way, Challengers does a great job of leveling the playing field for all parties involved and makes it so that with the right cards and a little bit of luck, anyone can win. There's so many things to love about Challengers. It's probably one of my most played games over the last few years because it plays well with large groups and it's so easy to learn that I have no qualms introducing it to pretty much anyone. I've played this one with 10-year-olds and 70-year-olds. I've played it in a tight 4-player showdown and in a mega 16-player tournament too, with the help of its younger and slightly more handsome sibling, Challenger's Beach Cup, and it never fails to deliver. So if you got a competitive family and you're looking for a great, inclusive, and easy to learn game that'll let you face off against one another without starting any fistfights at the table, then might I suggest Challengers. Okay, next up on my list is one of the simplest yet most engaging games that I've played in a long time. It's Pray Another Day. Pray Another Day is a super clever and ultra simple bluffing and deduction card game for 2 to 5 players from Pegasus Spiele. And frankly, I'm surprised that this one hasn't won all of the awards yet. I'm always on the lookout for games that are super simple at face value but that reveal a surprising amount of strategy the more you play. Love Letter is one of my all-time favorites for this reason exactly. I mean, you can basically get endless plays out of just 16 cards, and I think that's just an absolutely incredible feat of game design, and Pray Another Day comes really close to accomplishing that same feat with only 5 cards. In Pray Another Day, you'll start the game with 5 cards that represent the levels of the food chain. Bears always hunt first, but they're worth the least amount of points, and mice are the most likely to get hunted, but if they can survive, then you've got a ton of points to work with. Every turn, you'll play a card from your hand face down, and then everyone will reveal their cards in food chain order. If you're the only person that played a bear, for example, then you get to hunt and eliminate all of another type of animal from the field, and if you get hunted, you're out of the round. But here's the twist. If there's another bear out there, you'll cancel each other out, and neither of you gets to hunt, leaving the rest of the woodland creatures to pray another day. That is, until they get hunted next. If you survive, you'll keep playing until either there's only 1 player remaining, or you've played 3 total turns. If multiple people survive to the end, you'll count up the point values of the animals you played, which is why you'd potentially want to risk it with some animals lower on the food chain, and whoever has the highest score gets 2 points, and the first player to 5 points wins. This game is crazy simple, but it hides a sneaky level of deduction that can really have you thinking and using reverse psychology to try and get into people's heads. I mean, I even played this one with my 3.5-year-old, and other than him saying, "I hope nobody hunts for wolves," he did totally fine. I just got back from a big family vacation, and this one was one of my most played games because it's so quick and so easy to learn that even with toddlers running all over the place, we could still sneak a few games in whenever we had a spare 15 minutes. Plus, it's got great replayability, especially with the same crew, because there's never a strategy that works the same way twice. Once you start showing a pattern, people will figure it out and just start hunting you, so you always have to be shifting and moving and thinking a few steps ahead. So if you're looking for a great filler game in between something bigger, or if you just want a fast and clever game with some fun, intense moments that you can play over and over again, then might I suggest Pray Another Day. Alright, the next one is a game that you might not guess would be family weight when you first look at it, but I promise you it's so good. It's In the Footsteps of Darwin. In the Footsteps of Darwin is a beagle sailing, species collecting, tile placement game for 2 to 5 players from Sorry We Are French. Even though the theme and the art are certainly very astute looking, the game itself is a breeze, and it's perfect one to bring out when you really want to feel like you're playing a bigger board game, but you maybe don't have the full mental capacity after a long day. I mean, there's a reason why this game got nominated for this year's Spiel des Jahres award. It's a great game for family members old and young, and I'm always excited to tell new folks about it. In this game, you'll be sailing around in the Beagle collecting information on different species of animals from around the world, and placing their tiles on the corresponding section of your player board. You've only ever got 3 tiles to choose from, but whichever tile you choose will also determine the number of spaces that the Beagle moves, and what animals will be available for the next player to draft. This seems like kind of a big deal, but there's ways to mitigate the ship's location, so it's best to just focus on your own board and not to overthink it. On your board, you're trying to complete different rows and columns to be able to publish your findings for bonus points, but if you also manage to stack animals of the same type on top of each other, then you can propose some new theories, which will score you some key endgame bonuses as well. There's a few more scoring opportunities like victory points on the actual animals that you study, but essentially that's the gist of the game. I really like In the Footsteps of Darwin because I think it's a surprisingly accessible game masquerading as something much heavier. Every time I bring this one out with new players, I always sense a little bit of hesitation because of the components and the aesthetic, but once we get into the rules and gameplay, everyone is so pleasantly surprised with how snappy it is that I almost always get a request to play it again right away. There's so many different ways to win in this one, but the idea that all you have to do on your turn is to pick a tile and put it where it belongs is pretty fantastic, and it also makes it so easy to explain to players of all ages and experience levels. So if you're looking for a game that looks hefty, that'll make you look smart, but is actually so easy to learn and that might teach you and your family some cool animal facts along the way, then might I suggest In the Footsteps of Darwin. The next one up is a game I haven't stopped thinking about since the first time I played it. It's Trio. Well, actually, the first time I played it, I played the original version of the game called Nana, and I was equally as obsessed with the gameplay as I was with the little animal illustrations on all the cards. But Trio is the more accessible version of this game, in the States at least, and mechanically they're basically the same, so I'll point you in that direction first. Trio is a 3-of-a-kind matching game with a memory twist for 3 to 6 players from Happy Camper Games, and it's basically everything you want a family card game to be. It's easy to learn and difficult to master, it's got endless replayability, and it's got just enough luck that anyone can win. In Trio, you'll put your hand of cards in numerical order and then start asking around the table to try and uncover the right numbers. You can ask people what their highest or lowest cards are with the ultimate goal of revealing 3 of the same number consecutively. If you do, you've made a trio, and the first player to 3 trios wins. But wait, there's more. You can win the old-fashioned way by getting 3 trios, but there are also 2 other win conditions that level the playing field all the way until the end. You can win by only getting 2 trios as long as the 2 numbers add up to or subtract down to 7, like 10 and 3 or 5 and 2. But what if I told you that it's possible to win by only getting 1 trio?
This is impossible!
Oh no, my friend, it is very much possible, and you can do it by simply finding a trio of 7s. That can't be too hard, right? Well, since 7 is the middlemost value, it almost always starts in the center of someone's hand, so it doesn't even become available for guessing until later in the game. But to have the option of such a daring late game comeback maneuver is what keeps everyone on their toes and makes this game so fun. I love Trio/Nana because it's such an exciting game with such a low barrier to entry. I honestly feel like it's just a better version of Go Fish, and it totally nails the fun factor that made games like that a staple for so many years. It's so fun to watch new players slowly figure out some strategy for the game as it goes along, or to laugh as someone racks their brains to remember what cards everyone had. I mean, the memory element of this game is really the ultimate equalizer, and I've seen it humble even the most seasoned of gamers as they gift the win to the savvy 10-year-old sitting next to them. And the best part of it all is that it plays so quickly that you can just play it again right away. Trio is definitely one of those games you could just whip out for a few rounds if you're just killing time, or you can play for a whole evening over a glass of wine and some lively conversation. This one has become a staple in my bag for every family gathering, and I know you're gonna like it too. So if you're looking for your next family card game that you play at every get-together that's so fast to learn and to play, but that always leads to some hilarious and memorable moments around the table with your crew, then might I suggest Trio. The next one up is a nice cozy one for all the folks who like to have a much chiller family game night. It's AQUA. AQUA, or Aqua Biodiversity in the Oceans if you want to use its real government name, is a beautiful underwater ecosystem building tile placement game for 1 to 4 players from the op. This game takes a lot of cues from other family game classics like Cascadia and Calico, but it adds in just enough new stuff to feel fresh and then cranks the aesthetics all the way up to 11. I mean, I was already a fan of Vincent Dutrait before this game came out, but now that he's taken his talents underwater, I have no choice but to stand. Anyways, in AQUA, you'll be drafting tiles each round to build parts of your growing marine biome. If you manage to complete a hex of the same color, you can then entice a small animal tile to come and live there. These small animals will give you some points, but more importantly, they can create formations to attract larger animals, which will give you big points and also potentially boost the score of your small animals depending on the variable scoring objectives chosen at the beginning of the game. Most of your points will come from adding animals to your board, but you can also grab some sneaky points by building reefs next to your animals. Reefs are basically what happens when you don't make a perfect hex, but as long as you have 4 of the same color corals next to each other, they'll score points equal to all of the animals they are adjacent to, which, when placed correctly, can really change the outcome of the game. I love how this is a nice secondary benefit that you can go for if you don't get the exact tile that you want. It just means that there's less of a need for hate drafting because you can almost make any tile work for you. Anyways, I love AQUA because it draws you in with such amazing art and presentation, but then it really keeps you there with its surprisingly strategic and intuitive gameplay. I love when a game delivers on its aesthetic promise by being just as good as the cover suggests, and AQUA does all of that and more. And I always find that after people's first play of the game, there's something about it, whether it's the formations of the larger sea creatures or the scoring of the reefs, that they feel like they would have done differently, which just makes them want to play it again and again. I love when games leave a little extra to be discovered every time you play them, and especially with the extra scoring conditions that you can add in after your first game, this one definitely has that scalability that leads to lots of replays. So if you're looking for an incredibly beautiful game to add to your board game shelf that has the tension and the strategy to back it up, that'll be perfect for a nice calm game night when all the rowdy family members are away, you know who you are. Then might I suggest AQUA. Okay, for our next one, we're sticking with the water theme, but this time we're moving closer to the beach. It's Seaside. Seaside is an incredibly tactile seashell and crustacean collecting game for 1 to 5 players from Randolph Games, and when I say this is the game of the summer, I am not lying. The first time I played this game, I said to myself, wow, this would be a great game to bring to the beach, and then to my surprise, I find this little blurb in the rulebook about how that's exactly what this game was designed for. And let me tell you, it really delivers on that promise. I mean, it's got these chunky wooden tokens, it comes with this nice canvas bag that's got major beach tote vibes, and it's so easy to play that you can totally come up with a winning strategy with one hand while holding a margarita in your other. In Seaside, you'll start digging into the canvas bag of tokens, a delightfully sensory experience might I add, and you'll pick a single one to evaluate. All the tokens are double-sided and have a combination of either sea or seaside icons on them. If the side you choose has a blue sea icon on it, you can toss it into the middle and pick a new tile, and if the side you choose has a white seaside icon on it, you'll put it into your personal supply and take the corresponding tiles from the sea as a reward. Each seaside tile has a partner. Beaches get you shells, rocks lets you get crabs, and sandpipers let you collect isopods. Each of these groups has its own special rules, but they're all super easy to remember once you start playing. The last token type you can get is the wave, and the wave is always a fun one because you're gunning for the majority. If you have the most waves at the end, you'll get to collect all of the remaining tiles in the sea and add them to your stash. This could end up being a bunch of tiles, or it could end up being nothing, and this little hint of push your luck makes the last few turns super exciting as you pray that the tiles you need will come out before the bag is empty. Once the bag is indeed empty, and this might be my favorite part of the game, you'll literally just stack all of your tokens on top of each other, and whoever has the tallest stack wins. I love Seaside because it's exactly what it needs to be. It's quick to learn, easy to teach, and it's the perfect game to take outside with you anytime, anywhere. I played this one with my friends at a picnic in the park and with my 3.5-year-old in our backyard. It's just so tactile and simple to get into that I pretty much have to give myself a good reason not to bring it anytime we're doing any outdoor excursion. I just think it's a really well thought thought out game because it could have easily been a simple card game too, and it would have blended into the endless sea of simple card games out there. But because of the aesthetic and production decisions that they made, this game takes on a whole new life and now exists in a category all its own. So if you want to try the perfect summer board game that is not only conveniently packaged for easy transport with you on all of your fun family adventures, but it's also just an amazingly intuitive and tactile game that plays well with gamers of all levels, then might I suggest Seaside. Speaking of games that are perfect for the summer, this next one's all about chillin' and grillin' out in the sun. It's Sausage Sizzle. Sausage Sizzle is a fast-paced, outback-themed dice-chucking game for 2 to 5 players from 25th Century Games, and let me tell you, this one checks a ton of boxes for me. First off, it comes in a nice compact box that makes it super portable, which is always a plus. Next, it's got some amazing illustrations of some really adorable Australian animals, some of which I have history with. And lastly, well, it's just a really fun game. In Sausage Sizzle, all you have to do is chuck your 8 dice, save at least one, and keep re-rolling to try and put together the best combos. 4 of the dice have the 6 Australian critters on them: the kangaroo, the crocodile, the snake, the platypus, the echidna, and of course the quokka. And the other 4 dice have some numbers on them to act as multipliers, as well as everyone's barbecue favorite, the sausage. Each round, your score will be the number of a single animal you rolled, multiplied times the lowest number you rolled on the red and orange dice. And here's where the sausages come in. Sausages technically only count as a 1, aka the worst multiplier in the game. But if you can manage to secure all 4 sausages, then they actually count for 7, aka the highest multiplier in the game, making the sausage gambit the definition of go big or go home. Oh, and one more thing. Once you've counted your score for the round, you'll have to flip over the animal you used, which means that by the end of the game, you're going to be hoping and praying that you roll the right animal or risk a big ol' goose egg. I love Sausage Sizzle because it's the perfect generator for all those huge memorable moments that make board games so fun to begin with. I mean, there's nothing better than having all of the people at the table break out in cheers when you roll the last sausage you need with the last die of the round. I just think it's so awesome when a game rewards pushing your luck in such a tangible way that even though you're competing against everyone else, you can't help but be ecstatic when someone hits that perfect roll. I mean, Sausage Sizzle doesn't really break new ground mechanically, but I think actually that's one of its strong suits. It feels familiar, like a game you've been playing your whole life, but it still manages to feel fresh in a way that makes you want to play it over and over again, and then show it to your friends so you can play it even more. So if you're looking for a rousing, push your luck dice game to play with family of all ages that pairs cute illustrations with surprisingly tough decisions and leads to some really memorable, cheering out loud moments every time you play, then might I suggest Sausage Sizzle. Speaking of Sizzle, what goes great with sausage and also happens to be an awesome family game? Well, it's Bacon, of course. Bacon is a team-based breakfast shedding game for 3 to 6 players from all play, and this has to be my #1 hidden gem on this list because for some reason no one ever talks about this game. I mean, it came out in kind of this package deal with 3 other trick-taking games, Pies, Mori, and Lunar, all of which lean more heavily on trick-taking as the key mechanic and skew towards the more advanced side of things. Bacon is by far the most straightforward of all of these games, so maybe the trick-taking gurus thought it was too easy? But one man's trash is another man's treasure, I guess, because that simplicity of concept is actually what makes Bacon the perfect game for this family weight list, and one that's already gotten a ton of play with my family. In Bacon, your goal is to be the team that gets rid of their hand first, and you'll do so by playing sets, runs, and other combos of cards to the middle. Whoever leads chooses a set or run from the menu to play. Could be a 3-4-5 or a 3 of a kind or something like that, but the key part here is that if you want to follow, you have to play the same combo that was led, just better. Unless, of course, you have a special. Specials are mega combos that can be played on top of any combo, and they're really tough to beat because they can only be topped by another special that is strictly better, and not only are there not a lot of options, the actual options are really hard to come by, especially late in the round. If everyone else passes, you'll win the trick and gain the lead, which you can either use yourself or give to one of your teammates, and here's why that matters. Remember how I mentioned that you want to be the first team to get rid of your hand? Well, being the first one out only guarantees that you'll score, not how much you'll score. That's determined by when the rest of your teammates get rid of their hands. The sooner they're able to shed the rest of their cards, the more points you'll get, which means that as soon as you go out, the other team will want to stop the rest of your team at all costs. So, yeah, having the lead is kind of a big deal. Anyways, you'll play to a specific point threshold based on the number of players, and whoever gets there first wins. I love Bacon because it's a great introduction to the world of trick-taking and hand-shedding games. It doesn't try to do too much, and it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it's easy enough to grasp that I feel confident sharing this game with folks that aren't as familiar with trick-taking games. Personally, I come from a family of trick-taking fans. I grew up in the Midwest playing games like Hearts and Euchre, so so any game that feels simple enough to fall into that same category is great in my book. Plus, if you're like me, all of the breakfast motifs in the game will really have you hankering for some Waffle House, specifically the All-Star Special with a regular waffle, 2 eggs over medium, ham, wheat toast, and hash browns extra crispy. I might have a problem. Anyways, bacon is a really clever take on hand shedding, and in my opinion, it's criminally underrated. So if you find a copy at your local game store and you're looking for a great family card game that's easy to learn but difficult to master, that pairs really tough decisions with really simple scoring, then might I suggest bacon. Okay, I'm sure I can find a way to tie all these together. Let's see. Okay, something about flipping bacon and flipping tiles. Whatever. Anyways, the next one on my list is a new one. It's Captain Flip. Captain Flip is a super snappy pirate flipping tile placement game for 2 to 5 players from Playpunk. And as soon as I got to play this one, I knew that it had to be on this list. I mean, it wasn't a Spiel des Jahres finalist for nothing. It's got fun art, a really quick playtime, and a core concept that's so incredibly simple that it really makes you wonder, why didn't I come up with this game already? I love games that lean into that ultimate simplicity. I think they make for perfect family games, and Captain Flip is no exception. In Captain Flip, players will be drawing tiles from the bag to fill out the vacancies on their board, with the ultimate goal of having the highest scoring crew and the most booty at the end of the game. Each turn you have a super simple decision to make. Will you keep the tile you drew and place it somewhere on your board, or will you flip your tile over and push your luck with whatever's on the opposite side? Each different crew member has different abilities and or scoring conditions. Some just want you to collect them all, some combo with other crew members, and some even give you extra bonus actions to work with, so you'll need to choose wisely because once you flip your tile over, you can't flip it back. Anyways, as you add new crew members, you'll notice that your columns will start to fill up, which can earn you bonuses but will also trigger the endgame. You'll keep playing until one captain has filled up 4 of their columns, and then you'll add up all of your doubloons from both in-game and endgame scoring, and whoever has the most treasure wins. I love Captain Flip because it really is the model of what a family game should be. It's easy to learn, it's got great replayability, a cute theme, and enough luck built in that even the youngest among us can pull out a win if the tiles fall their way. Plus, it's quick enough that you can play it as a filler game, or you can string together a couple rounds of it back to back and feel like you accomplished something without having to really spend a ton of brain power. This genre of low maintenance, low barrier to entry games is something that I think us millennial parents are flocking to because, let's face it, life is chaotic and the world is crazy right now, and sometimes we don't need another thing to think about. But we still want to have fun, and we still want to share that fun with our families, and if that sounds like you, then this game is right up your alley. So if you're looking for a game that's perfect to play with kids or with some brain dead adults after a long day at work that really simplifies the play experience to something easy and fun with the flip of a tile, then might I suggest Captain Flip. Alright, the last one on my list is one that I just got recently, but I can't stop playing it and introducing it to new people. It's Things and Rings. Things and Rings is a Venn diagram hidden rules party game with major Dr. Seuss vibes for 2 to 6 players from the folks at AllPlay, and let me tell you, it's sneakily become one of my most played games over the last couple months because of how easy it is to get to the table. I mean, it's cute, it's got great table presence, and it plays in 20 minutes or less. Plus, it comes in that classic compact AllPlay box that makes it super easy to take with you everywhere. I mean, what's not to like? Any game that you can explain in like a minute, but that can provide hours of entertainment is okay in my book, and Things and Rings definitely falls under that category. In Things and Rings, one player will take on the role of knower, and everyone else will be the guessers, trying to get rid of all of the things in their hand by putting them in the appropriate rings. But here's the twist. Each of the rings in the game has a special rule associated with it, and only the knower knows it, which means that if you're a guesser, you'll have to use your powers of deduction and maybe a little luck to get close enough to the hidden rules to make sure that you can ditch all of your things first. You definitely don't need to guess the secret rules exactly to win, although major brownie points if you do. But the game at least gives you a little info on the criteria based on what ring you're in. The rules for the red ring are all about context, aka how your thing interacts with society. The blue ring is all about attributes, aka the physical properties of your things. And the yellow ring is all about the word itself, be it the spelling or the structure of your thing or something like that. On your turn, you'll just pick a thing from your hand and place it somewhere on the Venn diagram. The knower will then consult the hidden rules, and if you got it wrong, they'll move it to the correct spot on the diagram and you'll draw a new card. But if you manage to get it right, then you'll keep going, and if you get all 5 of your things on the board first, you win. I love Things and Rings because it truly is such a simple concept, but the variations of hidden rules combined with the mental gymnastics that you put yourself through in this game really make this an experience like no other. I love those moments when you feel like you're getting closer and closer to understanding the secret rules of the round and going on a run to win the game, and then all of a sudden someone puts down a random thing that totally throws off your theory and you are back at square one. It's frustratingly hilarious, and the absurdity of it all is what makes this game so good. I mean, if you're the type of person that likes to know perfect information and always needs to be the smartest one in the room, then this one probably isn't for you. But if you're like me and you're always on the lookout for a game that can make you laugh and want to slam your head into the table at the same time, and that effortlessly provides a super accessible entry to deduction games for parents and kids alike, then might I suggest Things and Rings. Thanks so much for sticking around for my list of the top 10 family games you probably haven't heard of. I hope this list helps you feel a little less overwhelmed next time you pop into your friendly local game store, and more importantly, I hope it gives you the opportunity to try new games with your family that can hopefully become staples for years to come. If you haven't played any of these games, which one are you going to check out first? And if you have, which family games would you add to this list? Let me know down below in the comments. I can't wait to hear your suggestions. Anyways, thank you so much for everyone who supported this channel so far. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so we can keep growing this channel and keep helping you find your perfect board game. Once again, this has been a Might I Suggest a Game production, and I'm Alex, your board game sommelier, signing off.